I've made it no secret that one of my least favourite death battles is Guts vs Nightmare. However, not everyone seems to get why, and it's not because I dislike Guts or Nightmare. Guts is one of my favourite manga protagonists, and Nightmare is one of my favourite fighting game villains, and I love both Berserk and Soul Calibur, and I think the animation was very fun in this episode itself. My problem is with the victor and how they went about explaining it. Let me explain their reasoning for how Guts won. Nightmare is stronger, Guts fights stronger things all the time, Guts fights a lot of demons, Dragon Slayer comes on an astral plane so it can definitely destroy Soul Edge, Guts loves Dragon Slayer too much to touch Soul Edge. That's it, that's their reasoning. Let me explain, piece by piece, the flaws in this. First off, Nightmare is stronger, yes, and while I can acknowledge that Guts fights things stronger than him, the problem with this is that Guts still needs to have power in a similar region to those he fights to be able to harm them. That's just how physics works. If Guts cannot exert enough pressure to at least be roughly within the range of the demons he fights, he would never be able to hurt them. But let me elaborate on just how much stronger Nightmare is than Guts. Soul Edge, without a wielder, so just Soul Edge, without anything to channel its power through, was able to create this beam of energy, which has been calculated to roughly 392 megatons of TNT. It also produced this storm with around 3 megatons, wielded by freaking Cervantes de Leon. And this one with 5 teratons when wielded by, hey look, Nightmare. While I don't generally think these storm feats translate to attack power, they do translate to durability, as Soul Edge was able to produce those levels of energy within itself, which means it must be able to contain that power, and if it can't contain that power, it would never be able to exert that power. I've never seen any feats from Guts that match that. The few I could have it calculated to, like, 0.04 tons for Wild's human form's raw power, 45 megatons from when Guts and Shiok vaporize water, and 168 tons from Mosgus's breath attack. So Guts is significantly weaker than Soul Edge. He lacks the raw power to be able to match and compete with Soul Edge and Nightmare. Now let me clear this up. They're extremely bad at explaining what Nightmare is and which one they're using. Nightmare, in essence, is essentially the title given to whoever is being possessed by Soul Edge. Technically, it is the term used for the Azure Knight when someone is turned into that. He's only a unique character of his own in Soul Calibur's 3 and 4. In Soul Edge, technically, he's Cervantes de Leon. Technically not as well, because he's not an Azure Knight, but he is a possession. He's possessed by Soul Edge. Kind of. In Soul Calibur 1 and 2, he's Siegfried Stauffen. In Soul Calibur 5, he's Raphael Sorel under the alias of Graf Dumas. And in Soul Calibur 6, he's back to being Siegfried Stauffen. In Soul Calibur's 3 and 4, following the events of Raphael's battle with Nightmare and Siegfried's internal intervention, the Soul Edge is shattered and Inferno jumps into a suit of armor. Zazalamel finds it and allows the suit to be animated. This is the Nightmare that they are using in the animation and in their discussion. Also, Cervantes was not the first, as the first we know of is Arcturus, the son of Hero King Algol. Now, we've established that Nightmare's stats far outweigh Guts, but the argument that Guts fights things stronger than him all the time is meaningless when Nightmare is far stronger than any of the things Guts has thought. Even Ganishka's full-size form would lack the raw power of Soul Edge, and not even the God Hand has shown feats putting them above Soul Edge. Guts consistently equals Nosferatu Zod and is weaker than Skull Knight, so how the fuck does Nightmare also not manage to overpower him when those guys can't match Soul Edge's fucking laser beams? Skull Knight and Zod are weaker than those laser beams, Guts is equal to Zod and weaker than Skull Knight. How is Guts able to beat Nightmare if he can't even beat Zod and Skull Knight? It's not that they're really skilled, because so's Nightmare. I mean, Nightmare consistently fights swordsmen weaker than him like it's nothing. Now, the big argument. Dragon Slayer, without question, can destroy Soul Edge. Here's the thing. Not only did I clearly just establish that Soul Edge can produce and withstand 5 teratons of force, but the most anyone has calculated Dragon Slayer's power output with is, as far as I'm aware, me, using an outlier and using very faulty science for fun. Well, it's hard to understand because I used a soundwave voice, so it's vocated. In my reaction to Guts vs Wolverine from Battle Royale, I calculated how powerful Guts could swing Dragon Slayer based on its weight and his lightning reaction speed. So assuming he could swing Dragon Slayer at the speed he could stand up with the whole lightning thing, and assuming that cloud was really close to the ground, that would put the force of this swing at around 10 megatons, which is way above the city block levels people put Guts at, but not even a fraction as strong as Soul Edge. But the thing is, they say Dragon Slayer cuts on an astral plane, so it can break Soul Edge. Let me explain the exact problem here. There are technically 2 Soul Edges, not counting Soul Calibur, which might as well be one too. There's the physical one and the astral one. The physical one manifests itself with the identity Inferno, which is technically the demon you want to kill to beat Nightmare, as the Nightmare that is in Soul Calibur 3 and 4 they're talking about is Inferno. The Astral one is Night Terror. Technically a separate individual to both Nightmare and Inferno that shouldn't be considered in this battle. So technically we have one issue right out of the gate. The Astral World of Berserk is not the same as the Astral Chaos of Soul Calibur. The naming difference isn't the only flaw. The Astral Chaos is a manifestation of Soul Edge itself, a realm of pure chaos and disorder composed of wandering souls that is beyond the concepts of time, and even allowed two versions of one character from separate timelines to meet. The Astral World is a multi-layered dimension composed of the interstice, the Quailof, the profound layer, and the abyss. This is also known as the Afterlife World, as part of the macroscopic trinity of the physical, the ideal, and the astral worlds. The composition of the world isn't exactly known, but it's the home of spirits and the reverse of ideals. The abyss itself within the astral world is the home of pure evil. It is a realm composed of pure evil. So the differences here are the astral chaos composes destruction and chaos, is timeless and is a realm of creation and imagination. The astral world is a cosmic swirl of evil that transcends space and is the opposite of creation itself. However, let's ignore that. Let's say, theoretically, they're the same thing. Let's say that Dragon Slayer can still hit Soul Edge on both planes. That doesn't mean it can break Soul Edge because it's not hitting one weapon on two planes, it's hitting two completely separate versions of that weapon on two planes. And the astral one is stronger than the physical one. It's like trying to see a character who can hit post-crisis Superman with a weapon that can simultaneously hit Superboy Prime 1 million would definitely be able to cut through post-crisis Superman. All you're doing is hitting two versions of the same guy, and one of them is much stronger, and is going to be a lot more pissed if you encounter him. Yes, Dragon Slayer is a big sword, and yes, it can hit hard. Yes, let's saying it can hit both forms of Soul Edge, but that doesn't mean it can destroy it. Some people have said, but it can kill Inferno, so clearly that counts. But can it really kill Inferno? Remember that 5 teraton feat? That applies to Inferno as well. He's the one that produced that energy before channeling it through the sword he inhabits. Here are the times Inferno has been beaten. In Soul Edge, he fought Siegfried using the corpse of Cervantes. He didn't use his true form and it was over possession of the blade. If he loses, he still wins, because someone stronger than his previous host gets grabbed the weapon, so he didn't really fight to try and win. In Soul Calibur, he fights Killik and Zhang Hua. Killik wielding Kali Yuga, a mystical weapon that absorbs energy and was on its way to becoming a second Soul Edge by absorbing energy from the evil seed, and Zhang Hua wielding Soul Calibur. However, Inferno survived this encounter by retreating into Soul Edge. In Soul Calibur 3, Inferno, he wasn't defeated per se. He was battling Siegfried in the Astral Chaos in more of a fight of willpower than actual strength, which left Nightmare motionless for Raphael Sorel to impale the eye. Siegfried was able to use that opening to free himself and draw Soul Calibur somehow to impale Soul Edge. However, with the sword nullified into Soul Embrace, which is what happens when Soul Calibur and Soul Edge fuse instead of Soul Edge absorbing Soul Calibur, confusing, Inferno escaped and possessed Siegfried's discarded armor. Meaning, even if Soul Edge is destroyed, Inferno can possess armor. I don't think the Berserker armor has a mind of its own, and that if Inferno possessed it, he could just sit in the Berserker armor till Soul Edge repairs itself. Maybe that's not possible. I can't remember the exacts on the Berserker armor in that regard, but he could at least jump somewhere else. But anyway, in Soul Calibur 4, Inferno was defeated because, as the new Nightmare, he lost to Soul Calibur, wielded by Siegfried. And he still survived and simply remained alive, but unconscious in the shards of Soul Edge. So even if Soul Edge is shattered, he is not dead, he is just unconscious in a comatose state. So once his minions put Soul Edge back together, he just woke up. So we've established, destroying Soul Edge does not kill Inferno. Inferno can possess inanimate objects and can also survive in pieces, and that Inferno existing on an astral plane means nothing, as he is still capable of fighting in that plane just fine, and still has more power than Guts. So not only does it not make it 100% certain Guts can destroy Soul Edge, but even if he could do that, that does not necessarily mean he could kill Inferno. And if you look at weapons that have broken Soul Edge, well, 3 things have ever broken Soul Edge. Algol, the Omega Sword, and Soul Calibur. In canon, non-canon endings have characters break it too, but that's irrelevant. They're non-canon and not indicative of what's capable. Algol's is interesting. For him, we have to look at another character called Alcaldan, who is stated to have come from a time where the cursed sword was young and weak. As it's implied Alcaldan has encountered Edgemaster, this likely means that Soul Edge was young and weak even after the time Algol was alive in. Algol predates both of them. So Algol destroyed a young and weak Soul Edge, and then made Soul Calibur with his soul. So Algol is not comparable to Guts, as he's a guy whose soul is as powerful as Soul Calibur, and is one with the Astral Chaos later in the future. Just so you know, Algol is not able to destroy Soul Edge because his soul is Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur is able to destroy Soul Edge because it is composed of Algol's soul. The Omega Sword is a divine blade, forged by Hephaestus and blessed with Greek divinity. This weapon was able to break a smaller, weaker form of Soul Edge, but only one of two that existed, and was nearly destroyed while doing it. So while it did break a weaker version of Soul Edge, while it was split into two forms and it broke the smaller one, it was still destroyed while doing it. Finally, Soul Calibur. There are many factors that go into why I destroyed Soul Edge. Elysium isn't equal to Inferno. It is the antithesis of Soul Edge via representing order as opposed to chaos. It is formed from the soul of Algol and is a piece of Soul Edge itself. It's been purified into near perfect holiness. None of these apply to Dragon Slayer. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm calling No Limits fallacies here. There are ways to destroy Soul Edge outside of Soul Calibur. The ways I can see being using an item that is powered by order or by godly divinity from beings that are above Soul Edge, or just generally having more power than their weapon. A planet-level entity could destroy the physical version of Soul Edge, for instance. Maybe even a high multi-continental one, like someone like fucking Goku could easily destroy Soul Edge. Night Terror is a bit different. But we're talking about killing Nightmare here, not Night Terror. So not only is Nightmare way too powerful for Guts, but Dragon Slayer's astral cutting doesn't mean anything against Soul Edge. But also, do they really think Night Terror is weaker than Guts? This is probably the worst part of the animation, because it implies that they believe Night Terror is physically inferior to Guts, or that Guts could beat someone on the level of Night Terror. Night Terror is so ridiculously powerful, even Algol is afraid of him. Algol being a manifestation of chaos who has physical form because he wills it, and can create and destroy entire worlds. This astral chaos was able to tear holes in the fabric of time and space as well. Night Terror is the embodiment of this endlessly large reality of chaos and destruction that wherein even Algol can casually create and destroy worlds, but is still afraid of Night Terror. Night Terror, therefore, if he would actually appear, would be able to destroy the planet Guts is standing on and just one-shot him. Oh, but how did other characters beat him? Because canonically he's never appeared in the physical world. This is non-canon. The only canon part of Night Terror is what's written in the art book. If you want to say that isn't applicable, then you can't use Night Terror at all. You can't say Guts could beat him because he's never done anything. So it's like saying Guts could beat the flying spaghetti monster. It's never done anything. Who's to say Guts couldn't? But that's flawed logic. There's no evidence. So there. Guts hitting both Soul Edges means nothing. Destroying Soul Edge doesn't instantly mean Inferno dies, and Nightmare's raw power would one-shot Guts. Yeah, I can get that Guts might not want to pick up Soul Edge, and if he did, he'd likely be able to have the willpower to hold back the weapon's influence, at least for a while. Eventually it'd slowly corrupt him, but that's not important enough to the battle to bring up. And even then, I don't know, the Mark of the Demons might do something, the Mark of the God Hand, whatever it's called, might do something, I'm not sure. So have I explained it well enough? Probably not. People seem to love overplaying Guts, saying he's able to match freaking Cloud Strife, who's able to one-shot Bahamut's Sin, a stronger version of Bahamut's Fury who did this. Yeah, sure, Guts can beat that.